If you guys need any FIFA 22 coins, make sure you check out igvault.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema, you can get yourself a nice 6% extra discount. So what's going on, guys? My name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. In today's video, as I'm sure you can probably tell from the title, I'm going to be talking about why I don't like FUT Champions as a game mode, but obviously why I still play it anyway. And I just wanted to say that this video is obviously opinion based. It's my own opinion, it's what I think of the game, and if you guys disagree with that, it's completely fine. You know, as it's my YouTube channel, I just wanted to give my opinions on FUT Champions as a game mode because I want to be completely honest with you guys. You know, this isn't me taking a jab at anyone in particular. You know, if you enjoy FUT Champions, that is completely fine. You know, that is okay. But for me, FUT Champions is a flawed game mode. It has been for a long time, and even with the updates in FIFA 22, I don't think that's changed. So to start off, let's go back to the origins of FUT Champions back in FIFA 17. FUT Champions was the first competitive game mode that EA released in FIFA. Obviously now we have Division Rivals, but back in FIFA 17, FUT Champions was the main game mode. You had to win 4 games in a row in a daily knockout tournament to qualify for FUT Champions Weekend League, in which you had 40 games to get the rank that you want. Now, like I said, at the time, this was the main competitive game mode in FIFA, and if you're not sure how FUT Champions matchmaking works, it is based on something called form. So every win you get, that is +1 form. Everybody starts on 0 form. So, you know, if you won your first game, you'd be on +1 form. If you won the next game, you'd be on +2 form. If you went 15-0, you'd be on +15 form, and that is where it is capped. You cannot go above +15 form. And whenever you went to play a game in FUT Champions, EA would always try and match you up against somebody with similar form. So if you had +15 form, you'd probably come up against someone with +15 or 14 form. Now, this sounded great in theory, but let's say somebody was 15-0, like a very, very good player, and they came up against another person with +15 form, but their record was 26-11. That is still +15 form, but they're not as good as the person that is 15-0. So already we can see how flawed this was as a competitive game mode. Even back in FIFA 17, like somebody that is going 26-11 is not as good as somebody that is 15-0. Let's be real here. So the whole form matchmaking is kind of unfair because it's just a luck of the draw. That is not competitive. And if you remember what I said, this was introduced as the main competitive game mode in FIFA 17. This was how all the pros qualified for their tournaments. They basically picked the top people from the leaderboard. So if you went like 40-0, you would get into the playoffs or whatever. And as we've established, the form matchmaking was flawed. So somebody that went 40-0 might not be as good as somebody that went 36-4. But obviously it was based on record. So the person that had the harder games and went 36-4 would not qualify for anything, but the person that had the easier games and went 40-0 would. So not really fair, is it? You also had to play 40 games in 2 days at the start, which was completely ridiculous, and even EA realized that, so they extended the time that you had to play the games and eventually even reduced the games that you had to play, but we'll get onto that in a bit. Now in FIFA 18 it was exactly the same, 40 games, it was based on form, and they would pick the best people from the leaderboards to qualify for their events. Even EA realised this was a bad system and something had to change. So starting in FIFA 19, where they still had the same FUT Champions system, but obviously it was 30 games instead of 40, you had to go 27-3 in any weekend up until like January to become something called FUT Champions Verified, where you had the opportunity to compete in any EA qualifier that you wanted to. So this was where FUT Champions started to take the back seat, because it wasn't like the main method of qualifying for events anymore. You know, if you went 27-3 in just one weekend, you could compete in any qualifiers to get to any tournament you wanted to. FIFA 19 was where they also added a new competitive mode called Division Rivals, a mode which completely trumps FUT Champions in any way possible. I'm sure you guys know how Division Rivals works, but if you don't, you have something called skill rating, and when you win a game, your skill rating increases. If you lose a game, your skill rating decreases, and every game you play, EA tries to match you up against somebody with, you know, similar skill rating. So competitively, the matchmaking system was 10 times better because the very, very best players were always competing against each other, and obviously the best player in the world would have the best skill rating. But at this time, Division Division Rivals was nothing more than a game mode for rewards really, because EA didn't do anything with it, you know, having a ridiculously high skill rating didn't do anything for you. So although it was 10 times better than FUT Champions in terms of matchmaking and competitive gameplay, it just took a backseat. So from FIFA 19 onwards, we've had a game mode which is 10 times more fair and competitive than FUT Champions, yet it was just ignored. This stayed the same for a couple of years, but obviously in FIFA 22 this has changed. Division Rivals is now the way people qualify for events and everything like that, because as we've established and as EA have established, Division Rivals is a much more fair competitive game mode. So this brings me on to the main points of the video. We've established Division Rivals is a much better game mode than FUT Champions in pretty much every single way, and even EA have realised that. You know, FUT Champions being the game mode that was introduced as the competitive game mode for FIFA is kind of just there now. I don't really understand its purpose, if I'm being honest with you. They've restructured the system, but I just don't really see the point in it anymore. I saw a tweet from Nepenthez saying FUT Champions is now only 20 games, and that is statistically not correct. It's actually 29 games. And the first 9 games are probably more stressful than the entirety of the FUT Champions Weekend League as a whole. Because obviously to get into the playoffs, you have to earn 1,500 qualification points from rivals, which can take you a long time if you're not in the highest of divisions. You then also have to go 5 and 4 in the playoffs to qualify for the Weekend League, and if you don't qualify, you have to get all of your points again to qualify, which is very, very stressful for the people that are not, you know, the best at the game. Now, much like the Weekend League, the playoffs are kind of a luck of the draw, because let's say we have 2 players that are the same skill level in FIFA. One person may qualify because they've had easier opponents, and the other person may not qualify because they've had really hard opponents. It's just not fair. Now, I'm lucky not to have this issue because I'm actually quite good at the game. That's not me licking my own ass, but I am a decent FIFA player and I can comfortably qualify, you know, for FUT Champions. But for a lot of the player base, whether they get in or not is just complete luck, and that's not fair, you know. I don't think it should be based on that. So I think the people that are praising this new system, mainly streamers and YouTubers, I don't think they're considering a lot of the community here, you know. You have to grind all those rival points in the week when you might not have a lot of time. You then also have to play the playoffs in which you might not qualify if you're unlucky, and then like, what's the point? You've basically just wasted your time. That's not fair in my opinion. And then I also hear the argument that FUT Champions is a competitive game mode, it's for the top players, when we've literally established that the matchmaking is complete trash. So for a lot of people it's kind of like a lottery on whether you get in or not, and yeah, that is not really competitive to me, I will say that. Personally, I think they should just bin off the playoffs because I think it's kind of dumb, I'm not gonna lie to you. Or at least give people the opportunity to keep trying if they can't get in, because obviously you only have 7 chances in the whole of the season, and there's 6 FUT Champions finals, you know, throughout the whole season. So essentially you could lose 1 playoff and then still get into the other 6 finals. But obviously if you lose more than that, you won't be able to get into all of them. I don't see, you know, if you've gained the points, why can't you just keep trying? I don't see why they've limited the entries. I really do hate that, because although, again, I don't personally have that problem, it's like, if you've earned the rival points, at least let somebody have a go. Like, why are you limiting their entries? The system for FUT Champions is also extremely toxic, and I don't like it at all. In my own FUT Champions qualification help video, I even said, do what you have to do to win. Like, people won't like it, but you're entitled to do that. But it doesn't make it any less annoying. People literally play like their family is being held hostage. It is not a fun experience at all, and often when I'm playing it I'm like, why am I even doing this? And then I realise it's just for some rewards, which for some reason are better than rivals, and I don't understand why at all. You know, since FUT Champions isn't the main competitive game mode anymore, I don't understand why it has to be so goddamn toxic all the time. You know, people scoring 1 goal and then proceeding to pass it around the back for 90 minutes with no counter at all, and then when you go ahead and lose that game, it leaves you feeling extremely frustrated because you almost feel like you've been cheated out of it, like you haven't had a fair chance, you know? So a big problem with FUT Champions for me is I just don't find it fun, but obviously because I don't spend a lot of FIFA points or any at all really, it's like I don't really have any other option if I want to improve my team. I'm pretty sure we also all know that FIFA is a fundamentally flawed game. Somebody that is absolutely stomping over somebody might not get the win. And although that is football and it does happen, it doesn't really have a place in a competitive mode. If you're outplaying somebody, you should get the win. Obviously that is not the case, which is another reason why Division Rivals is so much better. If you lose a dodgy game, it doesn't really have that much of an influence. You can just go again without a consequence. The best players will still end up on top, but obviously you can still snatch a win over somebody that is better than you and give yourself a little boost. It's one of the main reasons FUT Champions is such a toxic and frustrating game mode, because when you lose a game that you just shouldn't have lost, you can't really do anything about it. That loss is on the board, you cannot recover that. It's why so many people, including myself, get so worked up about losing in FUT Champions, because you're just like, I could not have done any more there. Why have I lost? Why are my rewards being hindered by something that is not my fault? Whereas in Rivals, you lose a dodgy game and you just go again, and your rewards are not stopped because of that. You know, you can still get the best rewards, and if you play well enough, you'll still reach the best divisions over time. Essentially, Rivals is just superior to FUT Champions in pretty much every single way. Another problem I have with FUT Champions is that the gameplay just feels completely different to every other game mode. I spend the week practicing in Rivals to ensure I do as well as I can in FUT Champions, and the moment I load into FUT Champions, the gameplay feels completely different. My players don't switch correctly, my passes go everywhere except where I have aimed them, and everything just feels completely different. It's like you're playing a different game. So on top of everything that I've said, the gameplay just doesn't feel good, you know, you can't do what you want to do, so when you lose a game again, it just feels even worse, because you're like, what am I actually playing right now? The community, including myself on occasion, also make it 10 times more toxic with the playstyles and the things that we do in-game. And because of that, instead of looking forward to FUT Champions and looking forward to grinding out those wins and getting those results, it's something you dread because you know it's going to be a toxic experience where you just spend 90% of the time frustrated and annoyed. And then your rewards are usually terrible, so after the weekend you're like, why didn't I just do something else? And it's kind of like a toxic relationship where you keep breaking up, you know, you're like, this is it, I'm done, and then you come back a week later and do it again, and then you're like, why have I done this? And then you repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. I'll be honest, I was really enjoying FIFA 22, playing Rivals, you know, even when I was losing games, I was learning the game, having fun, knowing that I wasn't being punished for losing games where I shouldn't have lost them. And then FUT Champions came around, and now I hate the game again. I've noticed the majority of people enjoy FIFA every year until FUT Champions comes around, and then all the flaws are exposed, because when you lose a game, they are the things you focus on. And then it just puts you in a negative mindset for the rest of the game, and it's just not fun, is it really? I'm telling you now, every FIFA has had gameplay flaws, even the best ones that people seem to say, like FIFA 12 and FIFA 15, they've all had flaws, but no one cared. Because when you lost games, you weren't focusing on that reason for so long, you know, you weren't really bothered by it, you just go and play another game. And I feel like that in Rivals, but you just can't do that in FUT Champions, you can't ignore it. So after all these complaints, why do I still play FUT Champions, you're probably wondering, and that is a good question. I think the main appeal of FUT Champions is that it is something different at the weekend, you know, throughout the week you have Rivals and Draft, and then at the weekend you're like, oh, there's FUT Champions. It's something different that only comes about on weekends. FUT Champions also offers the best rewards in FIFA, and as somebody that doesn't have a lot of money to spend on the game, you know, it's something that I need in order to make my team better, so I kind of feel like I'm obliged to do it in order to make my team better, because at the end of the day, I love collecting cards and I love, you know, upgrading my team. That is the main appeal of Ultimate Team for me. I am also quite a competitive person, and although we've established FUT Champions isn't the most competitive game mode in terms of, you know, the way it functions, it's still something I like to do because I like to compete. So although I dislike the game mode as a whole, I still play it because I like to get the rewards to upgrade my team, and I'm still a competitive person, so I still enjoy that aspect of it, I guess. But yeah, that's my opinion on FUT Champions as a whole. Do you guys disagree or agree with me? Please let me know down in the comment section. If you have enjoyed the video, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. Also turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.